Hey guys, Jack on Wrist here, back in another video. In today's video, I want to do a bit of an interesting comparison. And that would be between an homage watch and its sort of quote-unquote real thing alternative. It seems the watch community is fairly divided on homage watches. I believe that's because homage watches on one hand serve people in a way that lets them experience a iconic watch or a more expensive timepiece without having to spend all that money and really give them a little bit of a feel for it. And on the other hand, obviously they're not very creative design-wise, and I would say in some cases they're blatant rip-offs. And so I kind of get why there's reasons to enjoy them and reasons to kind of dislike them a bit. So as a way to kind of get to the bottom of whether buying an homage watch has true value and if you should do it, and if they really stack up to the real thing that they're trying to emulate, I thought we could use my Rolex Explorer reference 124270 on the left here as an example and compare it to this homage from Cadison on the right. So without further ado, let's go ahead and start with the known quantity and break down the Rolex Explorer. Alright, so this is my Rolex reference 124270. This is a new watch to my collection as I got it just about a month ago to replace my older Rolex reference 114270, the slightly older Rolex Explorer. And this is just a rock solid watch. And I thought it was a very good watch to use for this video, as I feel like the Rolex Explorer in itself is one that is sort of homaged a lot in the watch world. I feel like we see a lot of similar design pieces that are trying to emulate this watch, and so I thought it'd be a great example. I'll go ahead and run through some of the stats and specifications real quick here. Obviously, 36mm case. It has a signed screw-down crown that gives you 100 meters of water resistance. Inside, this has a Rolex 3230 in-house caliber movement, which gives you 70 hours of power reserve, as well as anti-magnetic resistance and shock resistance. Talking about the bracelet here, you have a really solid experience within the bracelet with solid links, solid end links, and a milled clasp here with safety deployment, as well as screw links. Really just probably one of the best bracelets in the watch world. In my personal opinion, having experienced a decent amount of different bracelets, it is just awesome. It also has a on-the-fly adjustment system, which gives you 5mm of on-the-fly adjustment, called the Rolex Easy Link system. You can see that last link is milled to let you do that. And this is just, again, an amazing piece, and I could not be happier with it. This is not a new release from Rolex. This watch came out a couple of years ago, so I'm not going to blab around too much about it, but just a really solid watch. In my opinion, one of the most robust pieces I've ever had in my hands. And I thought, again, just a great example for this video. All right, so this is the Cadison Explorer, and you can just see, just by looking at it, it is pretty much a clone of the Rolex Explorer. The same black dial, 369 Arabics going on. It is trying to emulate that watch very, very much. And the cool thing about this piece is that it actually has some specifications, on paper at least, that are equivalent to that of the Rolex, which I think is very, very interesting. So I want to kind of break down how this stacks up, because a lot of times with these watches that are produced in China and really anywhere, sometimes the specifications that are listed don't really match how they translate in person. And so again, without further ado, let's go ahead and break this down. So similar to the Rolex Explorer, it has a sapphire crystal as well as a signed screw-down crown, which gives you 100 meters of water resistance, or at least that's what it says it has. But trying to turn the crown here is just really, really hard. I have to put some real muscle into turning the crown, and just overall the action feels terrible. It's sort of one of the pain points of this watch, along with some other ones we'll talk about in a second here. On the surface, again, this looks like a Rolex Explorer. It has a very, very similar design. It has that bezel, which is probably a bit thicker than the actual Explorer. But, from a distance, especially looking at this bracelet here, which is stainless steel with full screw links and solid end links, you might be fooled. I mean, even down to this clasp, it has a very similar shape, which is mimicking the Explorer. It has the safety deployment as well, which if you open up, again, same type of clasp here, even down to this on-the-fly extension, which you get here in this watch. I mean, it is doing a good job of giving you some good value, or at least on paper value, for about $70, which you can get this off of an AliExpress type of website for that much. So it's certainly trying really hard, but I'm not sure if this is coming off on screen, but it is just really not a high quality watch. And you can just feel it. I mean, even though it claims to have, solid links and solid end links, it just doesn't feel hefty. It doesn't feel that nice. It's kind of hard to describe, but this is pretty much the ultimate example of a watch that on paper has certain stats and specifications, but when you get it in hand, it just doesn't have that. It really is just lacking that quality. And it even has a Seiko NH35 movement, which is a pretty solid movement. Everyone knows that's a pretty rock solid movement from Seiko. And that's great, but again, it just doesn't deliver in terms of overall quality. Now again, this is a $70 watch, so I don't want to lose my mind here and say, oh, it doesn't compare to the $7,000 Rolex Explorer, so I want to give it some credit, but really just in general, I would say this is a not very high quality watch. Even recording a prior take of this video, one of the screws got undone and the whole watch bracelet fell apart here. I had to screw it back up and take this video again. And I want to make sure I mention that because, it is a major flaw of this watch. I mean, I have not even resized this bracelet, so I did not mess with any of the screws prior to recording that previous take. And that's just an example, again, of this watch being really low quality. And, again, for $70, what are you going to get that's going to, change your life? I guess you could make that point. But I would argue there are other great watches out there for a cheap price like that. Again, there are countless G-Shocks and, obviously random Casios out there that are going to be awesome. And, I just really wouldn't recommend this, even though it's giving you a little taste of a Rolex Explorer. So here are the two watches side by side. And, again, on paper, on wrist, you might be able to fool some people. You might even be able to fool yourself at a glance. They do look very, very similar, but I just cannot really recommend owning something like this Homage Cadison because I just don't think it's going to scratch that itch of owning a Rolex Explorer. Now, I know it's easy for me to say because I do own both, but I do think having this Cadison and only this Cadison would not make me feel like, oh, cool, I own a Rolex Explorer or really the next best thing. It's not that nice, if I'm being truly honest, and I don't mean to bash this watch, but it feels cheap. I know the stats and specifications are there, the sapphire crystal, the NH35 movement, the 100 meters of water resistance, solid link, solid end link bracelet. You can tell me all that stuff, but to me, it is just not that impressive when you translate it to real life. And, I think this is, again, a common thing within the world of Homage watches and AliExpress watches. The stats are there, but again, sometimes it doesn't translate, and in this case, I really don't think it does. So a lot of you guys might be saying, well, this is sort of an unfair comparison. Again, you're comparing a $70 watch to a $7,000 watch. Of course, they're not in the same stratosphere. And to that, I would say you're totally right. I mean, it is not a fair comparison. But what I'm trying to accomplish in this video is really just show that, one, the watches that you find online on the AliExpresses of the world, despite being sometimes pretty nice, a lot of times I think can be a little misleading. And the stats and specifications that they have don't translate, which I've sort of mentioned already in this video. And beyond that, I think there's other really good value watches that can sort of fill the void of a more expensive watch. I mean, take the Rolex Explorer. If you wanted to have a Rolex Explorer but couldn't afford it, there's countless other examples like a Hamilton Khaki Field Mechanical. There's various Seikos that are going to do something very similar to that in terms of function and look. Even a Casio G-Shock would probably be a nice example of a really awesome field watch. But you really don't need to go and buy something like this, in my opinion. Is this a bad watch? Maybe. Is it the worst watch ever? Certainly not. It does look pretty cool, and the stats are certainly impressive, I guess. But again, it just doesn't really translate for me, and I just can't honestly recommend buying this as an alternative, despite such a drastic difference in price. So that's pretty much it for this video. If you enjoyed, I would really appreciate it if you can give this video a like and subscribe to the channel. Furthermore, if you've had any awesome experiences with Homage watches or really bad ones, I would love to hear about it in the comment section down below. And I would love to know what you guys think about Homage watches in general. A lot of people, like I said, think they're kind of like fake watches. Some people think they're a really cool way to experience more expensive pieces. Either way, again, let me know in the comment section down below. All right, that's it. I'll see you in the next one.